welcome to our comprehensive news package here on Ogun State Television. I am Olayinka Shodunke. Our top stories. Ogun government partners Niger Delta Power Holding Company to bridge power deficits. Federal government move to avert strike, invite organized labor to meeting. Ogun Assembly summons immediate past OPIC Managing Director over audit report. Huge blast rocks Jordan military base. Smile at the obstacle, for it is a bridge.
And on sport news tonight, Serena Williams fails in 24th Grand Slam attempt. I'll be back for more on the sports segment of the news. My name is Moses Ojewumi. Stay with us.
And now to the news in full. A task force on human trafficking has been set up in Ogun State to bring to an end the twin menace of human trafficking and undocumented migrants. The governor of Ogun State, Prince Dapo Abiodun, during the inauguration, challenged the 42-member task force to further strengthen the state's machinery against the menace. Governor's Office correspondent Tunde Olaniran reports that the task force is chaired by the Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, Akingbolao Adeniro. His reports.
National Agency for Prohibition of Trafficking in Persons, NAPTIP, and the International Organization for Migration, IOM, are collaborating with the Ogun State government to set up task force against human trafficking.
At this point, it is with a sense of duty that I inaugurate the Ogun State Task Force team on human trafficking today, to the glory of God and to the continued security of lives and property in our dear state.
The governor of Ogun State, Prince Dapo Abiodun, who was represented by his deputy, reiterates that his administration will make it a point of duty to make the state unbearable for illegal activities.
Government and other stakeholders at all levels, all around the world, must expedite actions to stop the growing number of human trafficking in our societies. For us in Ogun State, measures are already in place to stem child abuse, human trafficking, and other acts of violence against humanity. In this aspect, while we have continued to deploy resources to ensure security of lives and property, it is also a matter of policy to continue to provide conducive environment for our people to nurture and harness their potential.
He notes that the inauguration of the task force team is to ensure that all the people, including the most vulnerable, are secure.
The scope of work for the task force team is to provide a forum for dialogue and coordination in the state, and particularly to develop strategies and state action plans to counter trafficking issues, to carry out programs for effective reintegration of trafficked victims into the society, to work with the State Ministry of Justice on how to protect, assist, and provide access to justice for victims of trafficking, to create massive awareness programs that will further enhance the visibility of NAPTIP in the state.
The NAPTIP and IOC team call for concerted effort at rehabilitating returnee victims of human trafficking and irregular migration.
From 2004 to July 2020, a total of 529 indigenes of Ogun State have been rescued by NAPTIP, consisting of 432 females and 97 males, mostly from Abeokuta North and South, Ipokia, Imekwafon, Adodo, Ota, and Ogun Waterside local government areas. These victims were subjected to child labor, domestic servitude, and sexual exploitation.
Coordination of human trafficking is therefore key, as human trafficking is a multifaceted crime that requires stakeholders bringing their expertise together to prevent, identify, and protect the victims, investigate, as well as prosecute the perpetrators.
Members of the task force expressed their readiness to nip the menace in the bud.
And one fundamental aspect is that we need to adopt a victim-centered approach to the work that we're going to be doing. At the heart of this problem are many victims, individuals who are trafficked and suffer from violence from their perpetrators. And those are people that we need to protect, that we need to support.
So I am not afraid for this task force because I know they will get all the necessary support from the government to be able to perform.
Migration is as old as human existence, but human trafficking is a crime against humanity which this task force is ready to reduce to the barest minimum. Tunde Olaniro, Ogtv News.
In a bid to bridge the power deficit in Ogun State and meet power demand for industrial and domestic consumption, the current administration in the state is partnering with Niger Delta Power Holding Company. The Deputy Governor of Ogun State, Engineer Noimot Salako Oyedele, who received the Managing Director of the company on behalf of the Governor of the state, Prince Dakbo Abiodun, disclosed that the power audit of the state is currently ongoing to evaluate the power demands of the state. Governor's Office correspondent Tunde Olaniro reports.
Ogun State is a major shareholder in the Niger Delta Power Holding Company, NDPHC. This necessitated the visit of the Managing Director of the power generating company to the state for worthy and profitable partnership. The Governor of Ogun State, Prince Dakbo Abiodun, speaking through his deputy, says the partnership will be a mutually beneficial relationship.
Decided to set up an energy board to make sure that those particular people on ground who are totally focused on the energy sector and be able to identify the challenges and proper solutions to make the state more comfortable for the industries here. One of the plans of His Excellency is that we are to continue to look at ways to attract more businesses and more industries to the state.
The Secretary to the State Government, Mr. Tokunbo Talabi, and the Special Advisor to the Governor on Energy, Mr. Lulu Adubifa, expressed confidence with the partnership.
I'm sure that with the involvement of people we know, these are people that we're quite familiar with, and the level of trust is a lot higher. And we have seen what you have done, so it would be nice for you to let us know when these situations are, and then it makes it.
And I think Ogun State will be more than glad to partner with the organization in finding viable communities, viable industries to use for that power. As you might know or might not be aware of, the state also manages its own electricity distribution network that runs from Shukiri in Abeokuta all the way down the interchange past the Waterman towards that. Even though it's a 4.5 megawatt distribution system, there are currently plans to expand that.
At the end of the meeting, the Managing Director of the company says plans are underway to put the 750 megawatts power plant of Olorunshogo on the national grid to serve the people of Ogun State and Nigeria in general.
The Deputy Governor quite appreciates the issues and also appreciates the challenges of electricity in Ogun State, and has also intimated us of the efforts being made by the Ogun State government. They've conducted an energy audit, or they're in the process of conducting an energy audit, and they hope to partner with us to make sure that we have electricity for the people of Ogun State, the good people of Ogun State.
Availability of power is the major driver of any economy, hence the drive of the current administration in the state to ensure steady supply of power to its citizens for further growth of the economy. Tunde Olaniro, Ogtv News.
Ogun State Governor Prince Dakbo Abiodun has appointed Mr. Olugbenga Anthony Olaleye as the new chairman for the State Internal Revenue Service. A statement by the Governor's Chief Press Secretary, Kunle Shomori, adds it that the new boss of the State Internal Revenue Service comes to the job with practice experience spanning more than 34 years. A renowned accountant, auditor, mortgage banker, and tax consultant, Mr. Olaleye started his career with extensive exposure in accounting, audit, and tax management consulting with international firms such as Deloitte, Pricewaterhouse, and Otto Anderson, now KPMG in Nigeria. He is also a distinguished fellow of ICANN, fellow of the Chartered Taxation Institute of Nigeria, and qualified as a chartered accountant in 1989. Mr. Olaleye has had his first degree in 1984 from the University of Calabar and was the best graduating student in Mathematics Education Department. He had 2 international mini MBA certificates from CW School and Energy and America Management Association, USA, as well as attending various international development programs at Lagos Business School, Management Center, Europe, PetroSkills, USA. His major skills cover almost all areas of accounting, auditing, taxation, management consulting, corporate affairs, corporate finance, and others. The governor has therefore wished him a successful tenure. Ogun State House of Assembly Committee on Public Accounts and Anti-Corruption has summoned a former managing director of the State Property and Investment Corporation, Mr. Babajide Odusholu, to appear before it on the need to clarify some issues on the financial records of the corporation between 2015 and 2019, with a view to addressing all issues raised in relation to audit reports during the period. Members of the House Committee, led by Honorable Musefiu Lamidi, issued the summons during the consideration of the audit reports of the corporation as presented by Special Assistant to the Incumbent Managing Director, Mr. Olumide Olaya. Correspondent Kolawole Osho covered the plenary, and his report is presented in this package.
House Committee on Public Accounts and Anti-Corruption of the Ogun State House of Assembly, chaired by Honorable Musefiu Lamidi, in company of other members, in continuation of its exercise, directed the former Managing Director of the Ogun State Property and Investment Corporation, Mr. Babajide Odusholu, to appear before the committee on 7th October 2020 for clarifications on the activities of the corporation during its tenure. The immediate past head of finance, State Hospital Ijebu-Ode, Mr. Olasukanmi Lawal, who was summoned to appear before it to answer some issues relating to financial misappropriation while in office, has been handed over to relevant government agencies for further investigation and disciplinary action upon consideration of the audit reports of the hospital.
You will go and explain better to those who will investigate you further.
Honorable Lamidi, who tasked all accounting officers of various ministries, departments, and agencies of government to be more proactive in the discharge of their duties, reaffirmed that the committee remained committed to upholding the tenets of accountability and transparency towards ensuring value for government resources.
Still ahead, Federal Ministry of Transportation sets up committee on 10 billion naira federal government stimulus package for the sector. Details shortly. Welcome back. President Muhammadu Buhari has inaugurated the Special Purpose Vehicle for Presidential Power Initiative to assist the government and in improving the delivery of power in the country. Members of the committee inaugurated by Buhari include the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Mr. Abubakar Malami, the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, Minister of Power, Sal Maman, and the Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola. Malami's spokesperson, Mr. Umaru, stated that other members of the committee are the Director General of Nigeria's Bureau of Public Enterprise, Mr. Alex Oko, and the President's Nigerian Society of Engineers, Babagana Muhammad. Sequel to the conciliation meeting between the federal government and the officials of the joint health sector unions on Friday, the union may shelve its strike scheduled to start by Sunday. The unions had been directed to consult its members on the agreement reached with the federal government and report back to the Ministry of Labour by Saturday, September the 12th. A communique issued at the end of the parley said the federal government has appropriated 126 billion naira in the 2020 COVID-19 Intervention Appropriation Act for infrastructure upgrading and equipment for the health sector, noting that lack of effective communication made it impossible for the unions to appreciate the degree of investment made in the sector. At the meeting attended by the Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, Minister of State for Labour, Festus Keyamo, Minister of State for Health, Olorunnibe Mamora, Joesu Chairman, Mr. Josiah, and other officials, it was agreed that the unions should be carried along in the affairs of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 to ensure proper communication. The parties equally agreed that the private sector engagement should also be encouraged, as this would add value to the health sector investment generally. The federal government has scheduled a special meeting with representatives of the Nigerian Labour Congress, the Trade Union Congress, their affiliates, as well as members of civil society organizations, as one of the ways to end incessant industrial action by workers. The Minister of Labour, Chris Ngige, disclosed this in an interview with State House correspondents after a meeting with President Muhammadu Buhari at the Presidential Villa, Abuja, on Friday. Ngige said the meeting is slated for Saturday. Officials will disclose the true state of government financial account to Labour leaders so that they can appreciate the challenges facing the nation. The minister, who briefed the president on the recent strike by the National Association of Resident Doctors, which was suspended on Thursday, said President Buhari had approved the meeting with the Labour leaders. He said the president has approved a bigger government-side meeting with the Labour leaders. The Independent National Electoral Commission says it will embark on mass mop-up of card reader machines to ensure prompt reconfiguration for October the 10th governorship elections in Ondo State. INEC National Commissioner in charge of Information and Voter Education, Festus Okoye, gave the update on the last night's incident at the Ondo State INEC office in Akure. The inferno, which lasted for about 2 hours, to the combined efforts of the Federal Fire Service from the airport in Akure and the Elisha Command due to the inability of the Ondo State Fire Service in the early hours of Friday the 11th. The fire had been totally put off with remnants of the card readers daunting the landscape of parts of the INEC office.
I got in there, to my dismay, the only thing I saw was people filming and sending this on social media. There was just a little firefighter truck there, which was far below containing what it entails.
On its part, INEC says the Ondo State governorship elections will still hold.
Some of these challenges we have is to mop up smart card readers from the other contiguous states in order to make up for the total number that we have lost. So if we just take smart card readers from 2 of the states that do not have any form of election during this particular period, we are going to recover.
Preliminary investigation by the police to prevent further occurrence has commenced. Professor Florence Obi of the Faculty of Education has broken a 45-year jinx by emerging the first female vice-chancellor-elect of the University of Calabar, Cross River State. She emerged top after a rigorous screening exercise involving 12 other candidates. Obi will take over from Professor Zana Akugu, whose tenure ends on November the 30th, 2020. The Pro-Chancellor and Chairman, Governing Council, Junical, Senator Nkechi, who announced the emergence of Obi on Friday, congratulated her for emerging the first female vice-chancellor of the 45-year-old institution. Grateful Heart, an act of thanksgiving, has been identified as a means of receiving God's blessings and directions in a sermon. Most Reverend Olusegun Adeyemi, Bishop of Kwara Diocese of Church of Nigeria Anglican Communion stated this in a sermon at the 15th consecration anniversary of Right Reverend Solomon Kuponu of the Diocese of Ijebu North. Elizabeth Esson was at the Cathedral of St. Matthew in Ijebu-Bo, Ogun State, venue of the ceremony. Our reports.
15 years ago, Right Reverend Solomon Kuponu was consecrated as the Diocesan Bishop of the Anglican Communion, Diocese of Ijebu North. His counterpart from Kwara State, Most Reverend Olusegun Adeyemi, in his sermon, by congratulating the celebrant, enjoins him not to relent in his service to God by continuing in propagating the gospel of Christ.
After you have suffered a little while, because of all grace, who has called you to serve glory in Christ, to himself is so established consistently. There is a reward for our Lord. He is only in this heart that we will go to our own men and also to So, don't give up.
Right Reverend Solomon Kuponu, full of appreciation to God, ascribes all glory to God for seeing him through for the past 15 years as the first diocesan bishop of Ijebu North Diocese of the Anglican Communion.
I know that the Lord has been with us. If not for the fact that God has been with us, it would have been a failure. But we may go to say that God said he promised to be with his own people, and he has not disappointed us.
Oba Olusegun Oguntayo, the Ajalorun of Ijebu Ife, in company of some monarchs in Ijebu North, appreciates God in the life of the bishop.
Diocese has been progressing. He is the first bishop in the diocese, and I'm so impressed about everything at the service.
The bishop was thereafter joined by monarchs, family, and ministers in a thanksgiving as prayers were offered for God's continued leading and blessings. Elizabeth Esson, Ogtv News.
The Nigerian Immigration Service has issued fresh travel protocols for passengers traveling from Nigeria to China, Europe, and North America, asserting that passengers should strictly abide by them to avoid denial from departure and repatriation. Its Controller General, Mohammed Babandede, said the development was in line with the request of the affected countries, particularly from Chinese and French embassies. A statement signed by the service spokesman, Mr. Sunday James, noted that all intending passengers to China are required to obtain COVID-19 negative test certificate before departing Nigeria for China to be effective from 1st of September 2020. They are required to take a nucleic acid test 3 days before departure. Citizens of China are to apply for Green Health Code with HS mark. He also said all the categories of travelers, foreigners to China, and Chinese citizens are to submit COVID-19 negative test certificates to the Chinese embassy or consulates in Nigeria for issuance of required clearance for their journey to China. Ministry of Transportation has constituted a committee to draw up guidelines for the disbursement of the 10 billion naira federal government palliative fund for road transport operators and workers. Minister of State for Transportation, Senator Bemisola Saraki, disclosed this when she received the President of the National Union of Road Transport Workers, Professor Tajuddin Ibikunle Lawan, in her office in Abuja. The minister stated that members of the committee are drawn from the Ministry of Transportation and other relevant stakeholders in the transportation sector. She urged the unions to interface towards having one recognized body that the ministry can deal with so that the funds can be disbursed as soon as possible. In a move to effectively patrol the highways during the Ember months and beyond, the Federal Road Safety Corps has unleashed 221 cadets as assistant route commanders. The newly commissioned officers had undergone intensive martial conversion course at the FRSC Academy UD in Enugu State. At the passing out parade, the FRSC Corps Marshal Dr. Boboye Oyeyemi, represented by the Deputy Corps Marshal Training DCM Shehu Zaki, chaired the charge the young officers to allow the training received reflect in managing stressful patrol operations and handling of violent offenders. The FRSC boss said With their training and injection into the patrol operations, the Corps expects drastic reduction in cases of violent attacks of FRSC operatives nationwide. The commandant of FRSC Academy, Assistant Corps Marshal Clement Oladile, commended the Corps Marshal for the robust support and provision of logistics which accounted for the success of the year 2019 Marshal Conversion course. The commandant pledged to work hard in actualizing the Corps aspiration of transforming the FRSC Academy into a top-notch degree-awarded institution and a world-class regional center of excellence for road safety management in Africa. In its avowed commitment at ensuring availability of well-trained pilots to prosecute the ongoing war against insurgency, banditry, and other forms of criminality in the country, the Nigerian Air Force has graduated additional 29 student pilots. The graduating students, who are members of the 866 regular course of Nigerian Defense Academy, comprising 27 male and 2 female officers, underwent flying training at the 402 Flying Training School, Kaduna, for 20 months. Congratulating the graduates, the Chief of the Air Staff, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar, said the latest training is in tandem with the force drive to continually develop adequate capacity for effective, efficient, and timely employment of air power in response to national security. In a statement by the Director of Public Relations and Information, Nigerian Air Force, Air Commodore Ibikunle Daramola, the Air Force boss revealed that the 29 pilots were trained in both Diamond 40 and Super Mashak aircraft types, which are a positive deviation from what was obtainable in the past. While thanking President Muhammadu Buhari for providing the platform for the trainings, Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar enjoined the graduates to maintain the same attitude of dogged determination in their further endeavors. With this development, the Nigerian Air Force will continue in its contribution to Operation Thunderstrike and Adrin Daji against armed bandits in parts of the northwest and north central zones. On the business segment of the news, federal government inaugurates 75 billion naira SMEs COVID-19 stimulus schemes. Join us for details after the break. Welcome to Business News. Government at all levels have been advised to adopt visible tax policies and reforms that will be favorable to the masses. This, according to respondents, would encourage taxpayers to fully abide their obligations. Ifeoluwa Sholuwade in this special report takes a look at the taxation and what the law says about tax evasion and avoidance. This report.
Tax is a vital source of revenue for government, which enables it to fund essential services for the citizens. Inasmuch as there are disagreements among economists as to the criteria for distinguishing between direct and indirect taxes, it has been rather unclear as to which category certain taxes, such as corporate income tax or property tax, should fall. Professor Sherudin Teller from the Department of Economics, Olabisi Onabanjo University, Agowe, and Chairman, Nigerian Association of Small and Medium-Scale Enterprises in Ogun State, Dr. Akiwumi Alonge, say government tax policies and implementations will help spring up the economy.
In those developed economies, of course, people pay tax in most cases willingly, but not in all cases, because they can see what the tax is being used for. And of course, when people don't have job, the government takes care of the unemployed from taxes collected.
Have proper record, when you don't have proper bookkeeping, then it becomes difficult for your tax, whoever is going to evaluate you to actually make references to anything in the first instance. So that, of course, is the gap which we are actually looking at, particularly from our own end as a small and medium enterprise association, where we are trying to encourage as many of our people to get their businesses formalized. You see, the way to start at all is for you to have proper record of your business. When you have proper record of your business, then you have record of your intake, of your input, of what you do and what comes into you. That is the only time that you can do proper evaluation for you to be able to pay accurate taxes.
Director of Legal Enforcement and Compliance, Ogun State Internal Revenue Service, Barrister Timidayo Shokunbi, explains the essence of tax payment.
I may have a farm. I may have a publishing outfit business from where I earn income. All these sources of income under the law, I'm obliged to declare them, one. Secondly, to pay adequate tax in respect of all that income. And it's not unusual that people come and say, oh, these are incidents of multiplicity. No. No, you pay tax on your aggregate income.
It discloses the repercussions of tax evasion and avoidance.
There are sanctions in terms of fines, penalties, interest that accrue, in some cases paying double the amount that should have been paid in addition to the amount that's outstanding. And in cases, yeah, it could attract jail terms if the criminal option is explored.
They stated that tax rate cuts may encourage individuals to work, save, and invest, adding that if the tax cuts are not financed by immediate spending cuts, they will likely result in an increased federal budget deficit, which in the long term will reduce national saving and raise interest rates. Ife Sholuade, Ogtv News.
Still on business news, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission has said the power distribution companies will be liable to a capacity charge for failure to take their entire load allocation cost by constraints in their networks. NERC disclosed this in a document in which it announced to the DISCOs the review of the extraordinary tariff review application filed by them. Last week, the DISCOs announced that they are called New Service Reflective Tariff, which took effect from September the 1st, 2020, with the tariffs being charged residential consumers receiving a minimum of 12 hours of power supply, rising by over 70%. It was reported on Monday that the Transmission Company of Nigeria said the DISCOs failed to distribute 8,733 megawatts in the weekend of August 30. The TCN, which manages the national grid, is still fully owned and operated by the government. The federal government has flagged off 2 schemes to financially support about 1.7 million micro, small and medium enterprises across the country with 75 billion naira. At a briefing on the flag-off of the National MSME Survival Fund and the Guaranteed Off-Take Stimulus Schemes under the Nigerian Economic Sustainability Plan, the Minister of State for Industry, Trade and Investment said the schemes should impact positively on businesses. The Economic Sustainability Plan was approved by the Federal Executive Council on June the 24th, 2020, following its initiation by the Economic Sustainability Committee that was established by President Muhammadu Buhari on March the 30th. That was business news. On Glimpses this week, our attention is on the 19th anniversary of the September 11 attack in the U.S. Which comes your way every Friday in our bulletin. Our focus is on the September 11, 2001 attacks in the United States, popularly referred to as 9/11. Today marks the 19th year anniversary of that series of 4 coordinated terrorist attacks by the Islamic terrorist group Al-Qaeda. Bumi Adigun has the details.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
There is much that is not known about what has happened.
We understand that there has been a plane crash on the southern tip of Manhattan. You're looking at the World Trade Center. We understand that a plane has crashed into the World Trade Center. We don't know anything more than that.
The word of the day is steady.
Almost 2 decades ago, 4 passenger airlines, which had departed from airports in the northeastern United States, bound for California, were hijacked by Al-Qaeda terrorists. 2 of the planes, American Airlines Flight 11 and United Airlines Flight 175, crashed into the north and south towers of the World Trade Center complex in Lower Manhattan. With an hour and 42 minutes, both 110-story towers collapsed. A third plane, American Airlines Flight 77, was crashed into the Pentagon, the headquarters of the United States Department of Defense, which led to a partial collapse of the building's west side. The fourth plane, United Airlines Flight 93, was initially flown towards Washington, D.C., but crashed into a field in Pennsylvania after passengers thwarted the hijackers.
Whose lives were lost here, for the workers who work here, for the families who mourn. This nation stands with the good people of New York City. I can hear you. I can hear you. The rest of the world hears you. And the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
So that we do not have to meet it later with armies of firefighters and police and doctors on the streets of our cities. Now that conflict has come, the only way to limit its duration is to apply decisive force. And I assure you, this will not be a campaign of half measures, and we will accept no outcome, but victory. Dangers to our country and the world will be overcome. We will pass through this time of peril and carry on the work of peace. We will defend our freedom. We will bring freedom to others, and we will prevail. May God bless our country.
Since then, every 11th of September has been set aside as memorial of a past tragedy. The pictures remain haunting.
Joe, it is Friday, September 11th, 2020, 19 years now since the attacks in Lower Manhattan, Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and of course in the Pentagon in Washington. Today there stands One World Trade, where the 2 towers once stood.
In a year when the coronavirus pandemic has reshaped countless American rituals, even the commemoration of 9/11 could not escape. The 19th anniversary of the terror attacks is being marked by dwelling ceremonies at the September 11 Memorial Plaza and a corner near the World Trade Center, reflecting a divide over the memorial's decision to suspend a cherished tradition of relatives reading victims' names in person.
Join us again next week for another package of glimpses. The World Today is next after this break. A series of massive explosions rocked a city in Jordan early on Friday, but there were no initial reports of casualties, and authorities said the blasts were probably caused by an electric short circuit at a nearby military depot. Details are in this package.
Germany says 10 European countries have agreed to take 400 unaccompanied minors who fled Greece's largest migrant camp when it was gutted by fire
In a press conference on Friday, Interior Minister said most will go to Germany and France. Close to 13,000 people have been living in squalor in the Moria camp in Lesbos. Families have been sleeping in fields and on roads after fleeing the blaze on Wednesday as authorities struggle to find them accommodation. Near the ruins of Moria, local residents blocked roads to stop charities from delivering aid and said they are against the construction of new tents. After visiting Moria, European Commission Vice President announced that the devastated camp will be replaced by a modern facility on the same site.
The clock has run out on how long Europe can live without a migration policy. And now is the moment to change this. We tried back in 2016 and we failed because a number of governments blocked a European agreement. And this cost of non-Europe is now evident by the situation on Lesbos.
The Greek government has sent a team to Lesbos to find a solution locally, but residents oppose plans for a new camp. A military source said high temperatures caused a chemical reaction in one of the mortar shelling fields at an army facility in the Jordanian city of Zarqa on Friday. The blast happened at an isolated, uninhabited area of the military depot, which mainly contained the commissioned bombs. There are currently no reports of any casualties. India and China have agreed to quickly disengage from a standoff that has seen gunfire at a disputed border and accusations of kidnapping. The foreign ministers met and said they will ease tensions. Soldiers from both countries have periodically skirmished along the poorly demarcated border called the line of actual control. Both sides have accused each other of straying into the territory, and the clashes have sometimes turned deadly. In a joint statement, the neighbors said the current situation is not in the interest of either side. They agreed, therefore, that the border troops of both sides should continue their dialogue, quickly disengage, maintain proper distance, and ease tensions, said the statement. And that's it on The World Today.
From The World Today, Sport News Update with Moses Ojeomi comes up next.
Welcome to Sport News, and let's start from the world of tennis. Serena Williams' quest for a historic 24th Grand Slam singles title came to a stunning end against old foe Victoria Azarenka in the semi-finals of the US Open in the early hours of Friday. Williams was not helped by a jagged Achilles injury early in the deciding set that required heavy strapping, and her quest to equal Margaret Court's record of 24 Grand Slam singles title goes on. Instead, it is a two-time Australian Open champion, Azarenka, who will face Naomi Osaka in a quite remarkable story of resurgence. The 31-year-old had been a shadow of her former self since her stop-start return from maternity leave in 2017 and had almost been written off as a major contender prior to her victory on the same court in the Western and Southern Open last month. And now to football stories. Nigerian defender Ola Aina has joined Fulham on a season-long loan from Serie A club to Reno. Fulham also holds an option to make the deal to sign the 23-year-old permanent. Aina rose through the ranks at Chelsea before moving to Italy, and the 23-year-old is delighted to be back in London. Aina said he feels amazing to be back closer to his family and back in the capital where he was born and raised. Mikel Arteta says Arsenal fans can feel pretty relaxed about Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang's future. The 31-year-old's contract expires at the end of the 2020-2021 season, but Arteta is confident he will sign a new deal. Arteta says Aubameyang's strike partner Alexander Lacazette is also set to stay following talks with the club. Arsenal have signed Willian and Gabriel, but Arteta insists the transfer business is far from complete. Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp says he was surprised by the decision to revert to 3 substitutes when the Premier League starts this weekend. Premier League managers were allowed to name 20 players and name 5 substitutions when the 2019-2020 season resumed from its coronavirus shutdown. But unlike other leagues in Europe, the Premier League will revert to squads of 18 with 3 allowed changes. And now to Formula One. Valtteri Bottas headed Mercedes teammate Lewis Hamilton in Friday practice at the Tuscan Grand Prix as Lando Norris crashed his McLaren. Norris put a wheel in the gravel on the exit of turn 3, Pojosenko, and spun into the wall. It was an hot but incident ended his session. Bottas was 0.20 seconds ahead of Hamilton in second practice and was ahead in both Friday sessions. Red Bull Max Verstappen was third fastest, 0.039 seconds behind Bottas. And that's all on Sport News. Back to Olainka.
Many thanks, Moses. Entertainment news segment will now complete the bulletin. On entertainment news this week, Nollywood actress Shan George is engaged. Details on this and more in this package.
Nollywood actress Shan George is engaged. The 50-year-old grandmother, who has been married thrice and divorced, shared a beautiful photo of a ring on her Instagram, and everything about it is just so beautiful. Announcing the good news, she shared that her fiancé is from Cross River State, which is also her home state. She wrote, "As scared and skeptical as I have been all these past years, based on unfavorable past experiences, this one seemed to be just too right to be afraid of or to hide. So I said yes to my best friend, my brother, partner, business associate, fellow Cross Riverian, my ride or die since the 80s, my available shoulder to cry on always. It's never too late. Yes, I love you too." Fans will have to find another way to keep up with the Kardashians as the mega celebrity family announced Tuesday that their reality show would end next year. Kim Kardashian said, "It is with heavy heart that we have made the difficult decision as a family to say goodbye to keeping up with the Kardashians," Kim wrote in a post to our 188 million Instagram followers. After what will be 14 years, 20 seasons, hundreds of episodes, and numerous spin-off shows, we are beyond grateful to all of you who have watched us for all these years, she said. The post was signed by the three Kardashian sisters, Kourtney, Kim, and Khloe, their mother, their brother Rob, their half-sisters, Kendall and Kylie Jenner, and Scott Disick, the father of Kourtney's 3 children. The family gave no explanation for the decision to end the popular show. The announcement comes after that of rap star West, who has 4 children with Kim Kardashian, that he is running for US president.
Smile at the obstacle, for it is a bridge. Let's also remind you that you can now watch us live on this platform: Apple, Roku, Windows, BlackBerry, Facebook, and Android devices. You can also watch us live on our website, www.ogtv.com.ng/live. And just before we go on the news, a look at our top stories once more. Ogun State government is partnering the Niger Delta Power Holding Company to bridge power deficit. The federal government is to hold State of the Economy meeting with the organized labor to avert looming strike. Ogun State House of Assembly has summoned the immediate past OPIC Managing Director, Barrister Babajide Odusholu, over audit report. Huge blasters occurred in Jordan military base. Serena Williams has failed in her attempts to lift 24th Grand Slam title. And that's it on our comprehensive news package for today. Thank you very much for watching. I am Olayinka Shodunke. Have a good night.
This is Ogtv, the People's Telly.
In fulfillment of its promise to provide affordable housing for the good people of Ogun State across the 3 senatorial districts of the state, the Prince Dakwabiano-led administration has commenced the second phase of its housing scheme under the Ogun State Affordable Housing Project at the following locations: Prince Quarter State Phase 2, Kobakwe, GRA Resettlement Kentai Diaba 2, Shagamu Wapko, Ijebode, Ota, Ilaro, and Iperu. Interested subscribers in this housing scheme should please visit the Ogun State Ministry of Housing, Block C, Governor's Office, Okemoso, or the Ogun State Housing Corporation, GRA, Ibarra Housing Estate, at Belkota for application forms at 5,000 Naira only. Ogun State Housing for All, building a future together.